Hi there, it's Joe from StoringNuts.com. When we first bought this property, we liked pretty well everything about it, but we did find that there was a real lack of storage space outside. So, when you first buy a property, you may run into the same thing, where you need to put up, a shed. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you some insight on how to lay the groundwork for the concrete. Okay, it's a foundation for your shed. Okay. So I've already gotten started here, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what it is I did to prepare the site for the concrete. So you'll see here, what we did first, we took out the sod, and then we dug down approximately a foot. And what I did there, I was looking for the layer of topsoil on top. I wanted to get that out of here because we can't pour concrete on topsoil. Just a side note there. Topsoil is organic matter and will soak up water. And every spring, what happens when the thaw comes, that water will cause the ground to move. Okay? So we have to get rid of that. Sand won't hold water. So we filled it in with sand. So the first thing we did was we dug the hole. Took out all the topsoil and sod, got rid of it. Then I brought in sand. And we filled it back in. And then I let the rain settle it down, and we put a sprinkler on it, watered it for a while there, and as you can see, sand is packed. Okay, it's very firm and sturdy now. Okay, the next thing we did was built the concrete forms. Just a side note here, as you can see, this is not new lumber, and one of the things you can do when you're building a shed is you can keep your eyes open for people that are taking apart decks. Sometimes people will rip a deck off a house, and the lumber just goes in the garbage. It's perfect for pouring concrete. It's also perfect for building the shed, which I will later do with these. So now what I've got to do is I've got to straighten out these forms, align them with the house so that it's square to the house. We want to square the forms up, and then I'm going to drive stakes in beside them, and we're going to lift the forms to level them and screw them to the stakes. To do that, first thing I need to do is get these top forms off. These are all just sitting here. Everything is just sitting on the ground, so nothing's fastened in place. We've got to get rid of these, and we're going to start with the bottom form. That's the first thing we're going to do. Okay, so I'm just going to show you now how I mark the steel. Like I said, you can use a pencil, marker, whatever you want. I have bolt cutters, works for me. So, I want to take, rather than cut this piece off and waste it, I've got to go around the corner with another piece. So I might as well bend this here and attach it to a straight piece across the corner there. So I want to bend it right about here. So, just to mark it, not cut it, I'm just going to mark it here, just like that. Now, you can see there, I've marked that, okay? So now what I'm going to do is take this back over there to where we have the two boards, and I'm going to bend it. So I'm just going to take a moment here and show you what I'm doing to bend the rebar. So this here, down here, this is rebar. It's just like a very mild, not a very hard metal. It's easy to bend, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And what I want to do is bend it so it can go around the corner, and you'll see what I've done later. But right now I just kind of want to show you how I'm going to bend it. This is kind of the backyard way, there are tools for this. But so what I've done, I've marked it here. You can't see it very well, but I just kind of took bolt cutters and marked it. Not cut it, just marked it. If you want to come closer, you'll see. Right there, see? I just kind of chipped it. So you can see, that's my mark. You can use a pencil or whatever you want, but I don't have one here. So I'm just going to put it, piece of wood on there like that, and one under the bottom. Come over here, you'll see where I've got it set. Okay? And then I'm going to put my foot on it, and I'm going to grab it out here, and we're going to try and make this the center of our bend, close enough. So I'm just going to pull it this way, You can see what I'm doing there until we get a 90-degree bend, just like so. Okay. So you can see this is about 90 degrees to this piece. Close enough. That's good. Right about like that. Okay. Now you can see right here what I've got is a bit of an overlap, and this will be tied with metal wire. That'll be tied. There's an overlap there so that once she's tied and she's in the concrete, it can't move. It's like it's one piece. Okay, so what we're going to do today, I've got all the steel laid in here, as you can see. I've put the mesh in right across. I've tied all the mesh together. This is a 6 by 6 inch number 6 mesh. Number 6 is the heavier stuff. You can also get the number 9, and that refers to the thickness of the wire. Okay, so I've got the mesh right across the whole slab, the floor part of this this project. Now, in addition to that, you'll see that there's rebar here. I put these pieces of rebar all the way around the outside, okay, and I tied it to the mesh. And then because I've got heavy posts coming down on this point here and this point here, and specifically because those points are above, you know, what the ground is out here, if there's any stress on that concrete, I want these bars to pull from the center for strength. So that's why I've done these crow's feet here, and that'll give a little extra support. Wasn't necessary over here, as you can see, because the height of this ground is very close to this, so it'll never wash out or anything like that. Okay, so what we've done is we've tied all this stuff together. Most guys use steel wire. I had some aluminum, actually it's just house wire that I used for that. But really it doesn't matter, because once it's poured and the concrete sets, you really don't need the wire. So it's just to hold it while we pour. I've got all these little pieces of, you can see right over here. There's my sledgehammer. I broke up a bunch of patio stones and some old concrete blocks that I had. What I was looking for is something thick enough that I could put underneath the mesh, and it would bring the mesh up, as you can see right here, halfway between the top and the bottom of the form. So now the steel will sit in the middle. The idea with that is we don't want it too close to the top or the bottom, because as you do that, you risk it sticking through the concrete, but it also, the happiest medium for strength is right in the middle. So we've got all that done. Everything's lifted, everything's tied in place. Now over here you can see I've got some forms here. We're going to pour walls, okay, on top of the slab. So first we're going to pour the slab, then we're going to go over here and pour the walls on top. What I've done is I've hung this here rebar suspended so it will be into the wall portion of the form. Then when we pour the concrete, you'll have the steel on the bottom and the steel on the top, and what that does is it makes the concrete strong, so it doesn't want to, if it does settle underneath, it won't crack like this. The steel will hold it. Okay, and it's a very cheap insurance. It's only about $7 for a 20-foot piece, so you're crazy not to do it. Once that's all poured and done, okay, the floor we're going to have to do a finish on. However, the wall we're just going to float it level with this, and then what I'm going to do, this is called an anchor bolt. Okay, it's the same ones I use for houses. It's a 1/2 inch steel. This is an 8-inch anchor bolt. They come in 6-inch as well. The idea with this is, once you get everything poured and set, you put this in the concrete, you work it in, and then you turn it like that, okay, so that it grabs. Ideally, if it grabs the steel and the concrete, that's the best. And then you just leave it like that. So these I'll put in every 2 feet, which might be considered overkill, but we have a lot of wind, so I'm not taking any chances for a buck something a bolt. So we're going to put these in about every 2 feet, okay, all the way around this wall. Later, when I build the 2x6 walls on here, the bottom of the walls will be drilled out to fit these bolts in the position they are. So once the walls are stood on here, then we'll put a washer and a 1/2 inch nut on there and bolt the wall down. And what that does is it just, again, more insurance that the wall's actually going to stay on the foundation. You know, in a high wind storm, you don't want to take any chances. So this is that insurance. These are only $1 something each, so use lots of them. That's my philosophy. So here we are. We're ready to go. Truck will be here at 9:30. I got Nick and the boys coming over to give me a hand, and my part of that deal is I got to buy beer and pizza. So that's in the fridge and in the freezer, and we're waiting for concrete. There you go.